Let's have a look. So Bitcoin has obviously clearly lost its upward sloping trend right here, right here, right here. We did fall down, but again, we are still hanging above our critical level that we talked about, right? We've been talking about this Terra Luna wick for how long? And I was saying that I was anticipating a retest, right? So, if we kind of just get rid of this right here, okay, now we don't have that. Doesn't really look so bad, right? We are still putting in technically on this time frame, we are putting in higher lows, but we are sitting right here, as you guys could see, below the 200 daily. Now, pay attention to that because I want to talk about that in just a minute. I do find it rather interesting, though. If we do have a look at these recent price dips and things like that, you can actually see on June 14th, when Bitcoin actually had this fall, all the way down to these levels, we actually are having a higher fear and greed right now, whereas that fear and greed was only around, 41. We're all the way down in 37. So it's showing that more people are scared of this move than they were of that move, even though the moves are exactly the same. And actually, that move was a little bit more, right? Very, very interesting. But something that's absolutely crazy that Murad Mahmoudab pointed out is that we have really this insane confluence of the 200 weekly, the 200 daily, and the 200 daily EMA. So all of these moving averages have converged right around the sort of $27,000 area. Now, fast forward to the fact that, let me get to this one in just a second. If we come over here, you could see that we do have the 200 weekly, and obviously it's sitting right around that area where they're all converging, but we're sitting below it. So that's actually going to put a lot of overhead pressure on Bitcoin, right? Breaking through that $27,000 level now, actually it's closer to 27,500, but breaking back up to that level is going to be very difficult for Bitcoin. But when it does eventually happen, there is going to be a very, 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 very good chance that we may never see these prices again. So before I continue with the chart, just to add a little bit of my experience and how I feel, even if we do have, this lower level, I don't think we're gonna, but, again, I'm hearing people again calling for sub 15, 10K, crazy numbers again. We've talked about the VPVR. There's so much interest at 20K, but let's just say everybody gets their pullback. Let's say we do go down to 20K. I have a very, very good feeling that whatever the next big sort of dump or crisis or panic event that happens for Bitcoin, I think that is going to be it. I think after we get above that level, we break back above these moving averages, we get back, up to this area of 30K. I do not think you are ever going to see Bitcoin ever below those levels again. There is just way too much interest, way too much structure, way too much accumulation at those levels. So, you know what? Maybe, not to say, but maybe we should be hoping for a pullback, right? Because we may not get any more after this, because this upward sloping trend has been holding us, right? This spider line, we come down to there. You might get that 23 level, retest that. You're still putting in higher highs though. And we do have a CME futures gap above us. We have one very low at around 27.5, which could be our catalyst to break through that level. And then of course we have one all the way up at around 35. And even though I don't like the fact that these ribbons are starting to invert, we technically have not actually had them begin to cross below yet. It's very, very, very close. But it has still not officially flipped. Like it didn't flip here, it didn't flip here, right? So just pointing that out, we are still having that structure, and we've been supported by the 0.38 thus far. Now, again, a lot of people believe if you want to have a textbook official, you open the, trading 101, 0.618, sure. Okay, maybe that'll bring you down to about 21,684. But again, there's just too much interest in the volume, you know what I'm saying? And if you're looking at, for example, take this wave edge indicator, and people are saying, well, you know what, this is probably going to end up being something like this was back here, where it's this giant sort of mid correction that brings us down into a giant double bottom. So down here we were at 3,000, and then we came back down and touched 3,000 again, which would mean if we were going to have a double bottom, we would have to come all the way back down to around that $15,500 level. But if you look at the structure right here, take a look at this wave edge indicator. All right, does this look like this right here? And I realize I'm in the way. It doesn't. It's completely different, guys. You know what it does resemble more of though? Honestly, going back to, as I've been saying, that 2015 back here. That's what it looks like. This is looking very similar to this. And they actually did have a triple bottom. So again, I said, is that a possibility? Sure, it's possible. But the likelihood is that we've already had this cross and this had a fake out. We didn't have that fake out here. So that's why going into this triple bottom scenario, I don't believe is going to happen, because as you can see right here, we were starting to curve and then we inverted back down again before wave edge crossed over. And then you had, this VWAP flowing to the top. Well, we didn't have that. We crossed over immediately already. And now we're moving upwards to the top. So obviously history doesn't necessarily repeat, it rhymes, but having a look right here, we were talking about the fact that the S&P was falling. People were treating Bitcoin like a stock, right? Like a tech stock. Well, right here, we do have the S&P meeting a very critical level. So we have a lot of things that are lining up right now. You see all of this, right? And then this is the heart line of the upward sloping trend. So realistically, the stock market can only go sideways pretty much until Friday. And then by Friday, it would have to make a decision. At the same time, though, we have Bitcoin giving its infamous buy signal, right? And if I just switch this back to the auto and I come in over here, let me get this out of the way so we actually can just stick with what we've been seeing recently. Again, look at all this interest. Look at all this interest down in this level. Look at this VPVR, right? There's so much interest in this 20K level that to me, it would just be insane to fall below it. I mean, look at all of this support that you have here and the fact that you just had a buy signal on the hash ribbons, which we know every single time. I showed you guys this in my previous video. It's only ever been wrong once, and that was the COVID crash, and no one could have expected that, right? So there's a lot of things. Even, for example, if you are going to go based on RSI, you take the stochastic RSI, what is it showing us? Well, every time we have the blue cross over the orange, right, we tend to take a dip. So the last time that this happened, what happened? Bitcoin took actually, that's not accurate. Let me get that. Oh my goodness, that actually is crazy. That was accurate. Bitcoin took a 76% dip, before then having a 1,600% pump. I don't think we're going to get a 76% dip because this was literally back in 2013 when Bitcoin had no liquidity at all. But it did happen again in August of 2019. So what happened at that point? Well, we'll take that. We'll see where we fell from there. From top to bottom, we got the signal right here. Bitcoin fell 67%. Looks like we're having a bit of a kind of repeating situations here. And then again, we had it right here and Bitcoin fell 50%, right? But the thing to note is that after each one of these, Bitcoin then went on massive pumps, 1,500, and then we had that second pump here. But if we look at what had happened back here in 2016, we had the crossover, but then it immediately pumped back up, right? So if you look what happened there, that was a fake out. And that's what I'm talking about, is what if we had a fake out, okay? This is why I'm saying there's a lot of similarities with this 2015, 2016, with the exception of the fact that we had a triple bottom, but it still looks a lot closer to what we're doing right now. So if we zoom in and see this, you could see we have technically not crossed over yet. And if this does come down over the next month and then goes back up leading into September, October-ish, then I would say that was possibly the greatest buying opportunity really for anyone currently right now. And if you're expecting much more than that, well, I feel sorry for you guys, because this legacy trend has been holding us for a lot of years. Ever since 2017, this thing has been basically holding for 6+ years. And that level at its lowest would only be 21,000. So what am I trying to say in a nutshell? Well, I'm trying to say that the DXY looks like it's getting tired. The S&P looks like it's trying to push above. And Bitcoin is showing us historically that it may have another fall to go. It may chop sideways, but I believe that would be your last opportunity. I don't think you get another opportunity after that, and that's just how markets are. Markets are unforgiving, They'll hang out there. You won't take a side. You won't make a decision. You'll just sit there in cash on your hands, or somebody will, not you. And then the next thing you know, it starts pumping, and that's it. It's off to the races. It's gone. Like Mags pointed out, just to throw a few things in there. We are in a very stereotypical potential retest zone, but really once we leave this zone, that's it. And once we start January of 2024, we're out of this zone. Okay? 93% of all the Bitcoin have been mined. The world's largest asset manager, BlackRock, is filing for a Bitcoin spot ETF. Mysterious wallet accumulated $3 billion in just 3 months. Europe gets its first spot Bitcoin ETF. Only 6.3% of total Bitcoin supply left on exchanges. Bitcoin supply shock is inevitable. And as I've been saying, this could be the final shakeout manipulation before the real bull run begins. Next 2 to 3 months are going to be important. Don't miss the second chance. Act smart, right? And as we've said, liquidity crisis, they can happen on the way down, and that's bad, right? But on the way up, when we have the demand and it just isn't there, well, that's like what Tom Lee was talking about. That's how you get these insane numbers. That's where these price predictions that people are like, oh, that could never happen. Well, maybe in this environment, but that environment would change things 100%, right? And, talked about this, we've talked about the recession and how the average recession only lasts 10 months. So even if you do think we're going to go into a recession, the average recession only lasts 10 months. So let's talk about this Bitcoin wallet, which was only formed in mid-May and has accumulated over $3 billion worth of Bitcoin. This is absolutely insane. They have 118,300 Bitcoin, absolutely crazy. And I did verify this. This does exist. It does not have any history before this. And, if we go back in the beginning of BitInfo charts, you can see that over here, these big players, like we know this is Binance, we know this is Bitfinex, we know this is Binance, right? We know this is Binance Reserves, but this wallet doesn't have anything listed to it. So a lot of people were saying, could this wallet potentially be BlackRock accumulating Bitcoin? Well, apparently, according to Arkham Intelligence, they're saying that it's actually a wallet that belongs to Robinhood Markets Incorporated. There was some speculation that it was Gemini. So that's what they're saying. I don't know if that's official or not. But, getting back to whether or not BlackRock is actually accumulating Bitcoin, I believe that they could potentially be. However, if you think about it logically, if they knew that they were going to apply for the spot Bitcoin ETF and we had all that FUD and we had Bitcoin fall down to that 15,005 level, I believe that they've probably already started accumulating already. And if you think they're going to manipulate the markets, then yes, maybe they'll try to push it down. But do you really think that BlackRock is just going to announce something and then start accumulating? You don't think they've already done it? So I do believe that there is some accumulation happening, but I do believe also that they've probably already done it, and they've probably done a lot through OTC. And if you've ever used OTC, it really doesn't move the market since you're just paying flat rate price. You're not actually taking orders from the book. Now, people would be saying, well, why would BlackRock even be buying, any Bitcoin? They make all their money on fees. Well, yeah, of course. But understand, if you're applying for a spot Bitcoin ETF, you do need to have those assets 1-to-1, right? You have to actually physically have them in custody. So that actually would create massive demand. But something that actually has hit an all-time high? Bitcoin difficulty. Bitcoin mining difficulty. You could see right here, it has hit an all-time high. And if we come down here and zoom in, you could see here it is right today, August 20th, hit an all-time high for Bitcoin difficulty level. Now, why does this matter? Why does it matter that we've done this? Well, if the miners were really being so shook out from the 70K all the way down to 15.5, they probably would have lost conviction. They would have shut their machines off, right? And that's what we see happen when we see miner capitulation. But we're not seeing miner capitulation. We've already seen that happen. And now we're seeing the buy signal on the hash ribbons. So what do the miners know? Why do they have so much conviction to keep on mining? It is something that you have to think about. Something that's kind of crazy is even among all of this bearishness, you have Citi revealing 3 bullish factors for crypto in their latest financial report. Primarily a factor that could significantly accelerate crypto's growth trajectory in the future is the rapidly growing interest in distributed ledger technology. 74% of our respondents engaged in this technology. This is an increase of 47%. Additionally, Citi results revealed that 38% of market participants are today live with digital assets offering. Finally, they emphasize there is a growing confidence in the securities markets that digital money, including CBDCs, as well as bank and non-bank issue stablecoins, is evolving rapidly. In particular, 87% of respondents see digital money as a strong means to support security settlement, up from 72% last year. So 72%, 87%. we're only 13% away from being 100%, right? Also, I know, doom and gloom, but we have big news for the world of Bitcoin. The EU just voted to let banks hold 2% of their capital in Bitcoin. Now, of course, this isn't coming into power until 2025, but you have to think about that timing, considering that we do have the halving. We look at the cycles. We know that that's probably when the Fed over here is going to start reversing, right? They might hold it steady for a little bit. So it does, in fact, feel like the stars are aligning. Put out one video every day, keeping you informed. See you tomorrow.